Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Brian if you happen to be new around here, but if you're a returning subscriber or somebody watching this live, you are an incredible legend. Tales will be sung for you for times to come. I'm losing my mind here, guys. Obviously, we just finished watching the Ashes of Creation September dev update, and there are a couple thoughts that I'd like to break down in video form for you. Chat had a lot of questions, especially as it relates to like thoughts on Ashes of Creation versus something like New World. How do these games compare and contrast? And so I want to explore that idea in this video. We're going to kind of break it up in two parts. First, I'm going to give you guys the highs and lows of the Ashes of Creation dev update, really kind of how I'm feeling about the game post-September dev update, and essentially then kind of dive into that discussion. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If I'm not too lazy, I'll make sure that there's a chapter marker so you can jump to whatever most interests you the best. On that note, though, Ashes of Creation just showed off basically the Ranger class. We saw combat between tab targeting and the action reticle. I thought this was a real key strength. Now, lots of debate going off in chat at that time regarding, you know, which is better, which is more suited for that kind of style of play. We did learn that ammo is infinite, and my personal take about ammunition is old school. Like, you don't have to agree with me. I'm not trying to change your mind, but at its core, ammunition, I really feel that adds a lot, with the exception that I think it should be unlimited. Like, you can have unlimited ammo that is essentially firing itself off, but having an ammunition slot that allows you to change the ammunition type or give you extra bonus damage, having that as in a way, people call it a tax on ranged classes. I think it helps benefit the tax on melee classes, which is gear damage, for example. But they're saying no ammunition, and that's the choice that they're making. I'll be fine with it. It's not ultimately that big. It's not a game breaker kind of deal, but it does, in my mind, add to the immersion when you have an ammunition style system that comes into play. But again, I'll just leave that where it is. I'm sure I'm in the minority. I'm not I'm not sitting here saying like I'm the majority here. I'm definitely a minority opinion, at least from those scammers that I talk to. So right or wrong, that's just something that I gleaned from that system itself. But all in all, they showed off some really cool combat, some very cool movement abilities, switching between the longbow and the short bow. And if you guys have not been following Ashes of Creation, while I'll continue to spout and I'll continue to talk about the red flags and the concerns that we should all kind of approach this game in hopes that they actually really truly deliver and absolutely crush it, because I think everybody wins if that happens. But obviously having kind of that, you know, skeptical heart or like that concern, just like, all right, you're leading me in, you're bringing me down the pathway. Ashes is so incredibly beautiful. You cannot, I don't know anybody who's going to see the gameplay that was featured in today's video and not be blown away by just the sheer beauty of it. And the character models and the designs, truly something to be excited about. But we are still seeing pieces, and they're still working towards Alpha 2, and I think that's essentially what the series will ultimately be as we build up to the release of Ashes of Creation. In my mind, from everything we continue to see, I keep telling myself 2025. 2025 feels like a realistic time frame, and a time frame in which that they can really make everything come together, which it feels like that's what's going on, at least from the different vertical slices that we're seeing. But all in all, hopefully you guys enjoyed. You can go catch the live stream. This is actually a part of the live stream that I'm filming, but you can go catch that if you want to see the full reaction and the full event as well. Now, the question comes up regarding what does it mean for New World? How does this game compare? New World is a full action-based game, so there's no tab targeting option. It also has, you know, in this case, they showed off a couple skills in Ashes, and it sounds like there'll be some more options for that regard. So if that's something more your pace, you're probably going to lean more into Ashes. I do hear a lot of people comparing Ashes to that of Arcade in some of the things and systems that it's designed. I'll tell you hands down, like, I don't subscribe to the mindset that just because maybe something didn't work in one game doesn't mean it's cursed forever. I think iteration and trial and error are very important, and I do feel the MMO genre itself struggles with this kind of iteration, and so it ends up being a genre that has continued to lean into safety as opposed to continue to try and experiment to find what would actually make some of these different design decisions actually work for the majority of players. It has remained to be seen, but I do applaud Ashes for taking these risks. I do applaud New World for taking these risks. I don't necessarily see these games, I don't really see MMOs really in competition. The question about subscription and things like that does come into play, right? If you're subscribed, even if you're burned out of the game, chances are you're going to keep logging in to try and extract as much value out of that experience as possible. So there's going to be some playing fields happening in that regards. being that in my mind that Ashes is at least 2.5, 3 years away. If it could come sooner, awesome. That's as long as it's ready and they're ready to release, that's fantastic. I'm not going to complain that it came in 2024, right? Or 2023 just seems like it might be too tight of a release schedule. But in that regards, I think that also kind of gives an edge to New World. I'm not gonna lie, New World's out right now. You can play it. It just entered into year 2. Whether you enjoy it, that's going to be a matter for a different day. But New World does offer a lot of things that are different from what you would experience within something like Ashes. Ashes also still does not feel like a World of Warcraft clone. It feels like it's still rooted into some kind of idea. And I like that they use the term, Sand Park for Ashes of Creation. Originally they were using Sandbox. Same concept with New World. Originally they were using Sandbox. Now they're saying Theme Park. I do believe that the future MMO is going to be the Sand Park, the hybrid of a Theme Park MMO and a Sandbox MMO that really opens up gameplay options to a wider range of players, all trying to figure out what they want in the long run. So it's really going to be too early to tell where Ashes kind of slots in, and if there's ever going to be this aspect of Ashes versus New World. Do you have to be one or the other? And I think reality sets in is that, especially in terms of my enjoyment of games, MMOs end up being something that you can kind of step in and step out. And in that design philosophy, the real question is that are we going to see Ashes continue to lean into more and more vertical progression or horizontal progression? And obviously, I think a blend, a hybrid of both ends up working the best. But if we're going to sit here and start to praise any MMO on the market right now, hands down, I think Guild Wars, despite their lack of marketing, despite some of the things that I think that they could definitely do better, there is the sense that when you look at World of Warcraft, having to claw levels back and then deciding to add those levels back on, thus weakening the sense of leveling in a vertical way, I really do hope that we all see more and more games kind of say, this is our level cap. We want levels to be significant and actually mean something, without then having to always increase them. And then at some point down the road, because it will happen, end up having such a heavy bloated top, thing where a level, they have to either rush you through it or help you jump through it, as opposed to something like Guild Wars 2, which just set its level cap and then just opens up more and more horizontal progression in its quote unquote end game. But it's going to be too early to tell right now. I think feeling and combat, how when we go hands on with the Alpha 2, most likely I would venture to bet early 2023. When we go hands-on with Alpha 2, that's going to be the real feeling aspect that we'll get from Ashes, and this is a good thing. This is something to be excited for, that development is continuing. Obviously, we'll have the October update for Ashes and see how the game continues to evolve and see more classes and more combat. This actually really has me excited. I liked what I saw. I thought the movement and the fluidity of it all is good, but it also is different enough that, in my mind, I'm not getting that New World feel, and I think that's important. I think it's important to have options for players to be able to jump in and consume. There's going to be obviously things that are going to challenge people and their concerns, where you kind of ease into the PvP and the looting and how all that works. And for those of you who aren't actively following it, note that I'll try to put together videos, but Lazy Peon put together a really good in-depth video about all the systems of Ashes, why he thinks it's incredible. I'd actually encourage you to check that out. In case you were wondering how these systems are going to work in more detail, just kind of giving you guys my raw thoughts on that versus New World. I think New World's actually in a really good spot. Obviously, I'm a fan of that game. I think it's exciting to see more and more people return to it. The thing is, I would say, is that if you're interested in Ashes, you probably are going to enjoy New World. And you can play it. And most likely, I would venture to bet, if you're interested in Ashes, you've already bought New World. And ultimately, you can just kind of play it for a couple years and have it kind of help bridge the gap between that and Ashes or some other game. Obviously, your choice, dealer's choice in this regards. But those are my thoughts. Now, I'm going to kind of take a look over here at chat as we kind of jump into it. People saying, great stream. I really appreciate you guys all hanging out with me live. That was fun. And then Tal says they agree with me on ammo. I hope they're as different as possible. I want my MMOs to be unique and have separate experiences. That's from Swan, nailing it right on the head. Absolutely agreed. Moo Well says, if level 50 is going to take weeks or months to reach, I really hope that they don't increase the cap and make it years. If they ever do cap increases, let's talk about the idea of cap increases versus not. I think the longer that you actually extend that out makes a lot of sense, right? Because if you have horizontal progression, and that doesn't mean that XP, I hate when XP hits the floor. You'll hear that constantly from me regarding New World right now. Once you're level 60, all of these activities that gave you XP all of a sudden have no value to you in an XP sense, but they still reward XP. It just hits the floor. It does nothing for you. I think essentially when you get to level cap, it's always fun to see that XP still has value no matter what you're doing, but it's just a slow, static form of additional progression that doesn't necessarily break the game, doesn't necessarily say, oh, the level cap goes up for infinity. If you want to hit a level 1000, you can, as opposed to like, yeah, the level cap's 60, but every time you level, we're just going to like kind of give you some rewards, kind of say thank you so much for continuing to play. I wish games like Final Fantasy 14 did this as well. That literally is like one of the things, one of my pet peeves in MMOs and these discussions. But at its core, I think Ashes is definitely worth your attention. You know, and I mean this is like, I'm willing to put my money into Ashes, namely because I've been following it all this time. Actually, I tried to purchase Ashes the other day, and it errored out. So I don't know what the hell that was about, but I will figure it out, and I'll be putting my money in, because if I'm going to talk about this game, if I'm going to cover this game, I feel like it's important that I have a risk on the table. And I'd encourage you guys, obviously, to assess any of this risk for yourself, or use me or another content creator as a kind of an avenue to make that judgment at a later call. There's nothing wrong with that relationship. I perfectly understand when we talk about, like, you know, risk in terms of this investment. I don't want to make this video longer than it needs to be. I do appreciate everybody here on stream. This is something I think is going to be something worthwhile and something we should be rooting for, even if it's not going to be a game that you are going to be playing, but rooting for at its core, because I think the MMO genre needs more wins. And I don't know if that kind of resonates with anybody out there. You guys can let me know, but I feel like it needs more wins. And I think that will help the genre reward risk, reward innovation. Because when I talk to MMO players, when I talk to each and every one of you, I think the general theme or the feeling that I get is that everything really has just kind of got stuck, you know, in this genre. And I understand why it's gotten stuck. Investment did not equal reward. Investment also was more copy and paste because of that. I hope that people are willing to take risks and be rewarded for that, because as a player who loves the genre, especially the fantasy RPG that is existing in an online world, I want that. I want my kids to be able to experience that in the future. I want, you know, options for players. And I think that's what we're looking at right now. At least that's the way it feels to me. Again, I highly recommend New World. If you haven't been playing it for a while, I do have Ginger World Gaming as a channel dedicated to it. We've been streaming it on Friday nights. In fact, Yamron and the team are going to still be doing their community game night. I've got a date with my wife tonight, so I hope you guys all have a good evening. I hope I do as too. Yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I'll see you in my next one. But until next time, take care.